hello, everybody. Welcome to Chasing Labels. And tonight, unfortunately, we're here on a little bit of a sad note, but we're gonna do our best to celebrate a little bit the life of the late Tony Stella, who is, of course, a fantastic artist, illustrator that's donned the covers of many of the Blu-rays and 4Ks and all different things that we've got on our shelves right now, and we'll be pulling some of them out just to talk about them. And, each of us has a unique point of view of Tony. Tony was a very kind of private person. He, even in our interview that me and Andrew did, he was not on camera. It was just audio. And we honestly we're one of the few that have actually been able to do a proper interview with Tony. So we feel very lucky to have done that. And we'll jump into that. And of course, that interview is on the channel and you can go check that out. But we'll talk about a little bit of the stuff from that. But here with me tonight, of course, Andrew Cabral's here. We got from New Wave Video, John Matthews, and of course, collaborator with Tony many times, the graphic designer, Scott Saslow. How you doing, Scott?
Doing all right. Wish we could be chatting under different circumstances, but here we are.
It's part of life, unfortunately. John, how you doing?
Yeah, doing well. Same. Want to discuss obviously Tony's legacy, and it's a real shock. So but apart from that, doing okay. Doing good.
I think. And what's interesting about this is that apparently this was 5 days ago that it actually was announced, but it just caught on today or late last night. I know Andrew messaged me and he told me about it first, and I was like, "What?" Just kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah, coincidentally, I actually saw it from Instagram. I believe first from Scott, and then I saw it from our good friend Celeste Lacabra. Yeah. And then I'm like, "Who?" It's one of those things where you're like, "Oh, who are they talking about?" What's really going on. And then once I caught on that, they're talking about Tony Stella. And I'm like, when did this occur? And then, of course, I went to his personal Instagram, and then I saw that there was a post about 5 days ago from last night, kind of announcing his passing. And I think last night was really the time where others on the interwebs or on social media really caught wind of it. And then the outpour from it has been quite extensive. It's not only been people like us within the movie collecting and movie loving community, but people within the movie industry. I saw Neon, the production company Neon post about it today. I saw the screenwriters from Sam Raimi's recent movie Send Help talked about it because he had done artwork for Send Help, the recent movie from them. And so it's been kind of just permeating throughout the interwebs today.
Yeah, that post you're talking about, Midnight Marauders, is the Instagram, and they're actually, I actually reached out to him today, and very private as well. They both use, of course, they're both very private, but they work together a lot. They do a lot of their art together.
That was the post that I believe Scott you had posted about, reposted, as well as Celeste, and it was just kind of a formal thing. But incredibly sad. Just took us all by shock, rather, because we're so used to seeing Tony's artwork get posted almost every day. I remember that was an everyday occurrence. So it was really shocking to me.
First, what we'll do is, I guess, just each kind of we'll start with Scott, since Scott, I think probably is the most recent, most active person that's probably worked with him. I think I saw you said you said you messaged him just as recent as last week, or.
Well, I don't know how many, I would talk to him about work. Now I'm kind of regretting not engaging with him on a personal level, but I'm working on another title for Arrow with his artwork. Given recent titles with his artwork, probably pretty good idea what it might be, but the artwork needed some adjustments, and we sent him an email and he had it within 24 hours and it's going to look great. He was also one of the only artists where if I had a question, I'd reach out to him directly. If there was an issue, there was rarely an issue, but if there was, or if I wanted a second opinion, we could talk specific titles later, but yeah, I would never hesitate to reach out. And originally I just did it as a fan because I
Yeah.
don't even know when he came on my radar, initially. He was just always there, always making artwork.
Yeah. What we definitely figured out through the interview we did with him is he's definitely, not only is he a great artist, but super film fan. Like he's fanatical. If you listen to the interview, like Andrew said, you get into his background, and his whole family were artists, and they very much brought him up in a very kind of like a film family that it was wanted to talk about it, critically talk about film, not just watch it, but interact with it in all different ways. So.
And it's also interesting. I was on his website earlier before the show, just going through a lot of his artwork and stuff. And his love for movies definitely extended beyond, doing the work, collaborating with people like Scott with graphic design and things like that. Like his work extended to just he just made art for the movies that he loved the most. You know what I mean? Yeah. So there's just a varying degree of different genres, different famous movies or movies that meant a lot to him that he would, apply his talent to and create such beautiful original art for, which is that really shows like the true passion that he had just for the love of the movies.
Yeah. John, you have you're of course, New Wave Video is kind of a new label, but you told me you'd been talking with Tony about something.
Yeah, absolutely. So when so I'm trying to remember when Tony came on my radar. Probably through the boutique releases and labels like Arrow and whatnot, the early stuff he did, and obviously it goes way back to that, like I said, like posters and festivals and whatnot. So look, when we started New Wave, obviously I always had in mind, I always wanted a Tony Stella artwork on one of our releases, because I think that's kind of that's like the A+, you really strive for that. And we had, I can't announce it yet, but we have an upcoming 1960s Japanese film, and I just thought, perfect, because he does Japanese artwork. He did it like pretty much so incredibly well. I mean, that sort of worked really well with his style as well. So I reached out, and he was interested, and it was something that possibly later in the year he was going to get to. And then heard the news, and I was shocked. And now I look at that film, and I just don't know. I'm kind of stumped, because I can't picture it without Tony's artwork. So I'm just like, it took me back as well, like kind of emotionally. So it was just and same with you guys. Like I think I found out through a Discord group I'm on. It just popped up, and I was like, "What's this?" And I didn't believe it at first. I'm like, well, this can't be right. And then found out. So always admired Tony's work. And like I said, that was like the A+ standard for us. Like that's where, as New Wave, as we grew, that was the type of artwork we wanted to get to. And we're finally at that point now. We can start getting those type of artists on our releases. And just still a shock, and I'm just I just can't believe it. So it's it really took me back.
Yeah, I mean, especially Tony, when we talked to him, he has a very big love for Japanese cinema too. He got it. I mean, I know he did say Seven Samurai was kind of the big influence for him at an early age, and was it Tatsu Nakadai is like his is his hero, so he definitely would have done a really great cover for that film, whatever that film is. So but Andrew, what do you feel like was the first kind of like moment that you started noticing Tony's work? Any specific releases?
Well, one of the earliest ones I have is when we first started doing Chasing Labels several years ago. I started noticing right away the difference between his artwork and everyone else's. They look like paintings. They look like actual artist original paintings, very similar to Drew Struzan. Also, coincidentally, Drew Struzan's Facebook page posted about Tony Stella as well, because their artwork was rather similar. Drew Struzan coincidentally recently passed as well, a true great artist of our time too. But it was Major Dundee. Just pulling out titles now. Major Dundee was one of the first early ones that I got that had his artwork, and I was actually just reading the credits to make sure it was his. And Scott, I saw your name is in the credits too, buried all the way on the last page of the booklet. I know we talked about it before, but they really got to start putting these names like out in the open because I have to start digging to find credits for these things.
I mean, at least as seasoned physical media people, we know where to look.
Yeah, that was my guess. Would have been the
but
booklet.
Still, yeah.
Yeah, it's all the way in the back. At least they put it in big bold printing. It's not like fine print. Like you're on the back there, Scott, as well as Tony.
Well, and that's and that was also a case where, and I just looked on my website. Black Test Car was the first Arrow title I worked on with his artwork, but I'm looking for Major Dundee, and that's one where, because I imagine this was, he was always brought in on these releases before I was, so these decisions would be made before me. But Major Dundee, for instance, is a title where he did booklet art, he did the slipcover art, he did disc art, everything. And I do remember he did the.
That looks like his work.
I did ask for his permission. He this is nerdy, but some of the fonts he used on the poster for the actors' names, for instance, in the building block, I thought were too modern. So I asked him, "Can I change these?" And sure. I wouldn't always ask or would think of that, but that was one case where, people might notice. But it worked out in the end, and I think he had to revise that box artwork to give us some extra either room on the bottom or room on the top. Sometimes these things don't fit the template perfectly, so, and it's usually just a matter of millimeters too. But he was a perfectionist, certainly. But the
as artists usually are. I mean, that's the thing is, and what we got from our interview with him was very much of a person obsessed with what he does, and people that are obsessed are perfectionists. That's how it is. I'll tell you the one, and this is before I even understood that it was I didn't know who Tony Stella was when I had this release, but his art on The Great Silence was the one that kind of stood out to me first. When I eventually realized it was him and Midnight Marauders are both named on this one. And I now that I know it's his, I'm like, oh yeah. I mean, that's, you can see it in there, and it's such a great, such a great cover. But you guys, what are some of your favorites, John?
Yeah, I was trying to think back to the earlier ones too, and when obviously Tony came on my radar. But I think one of my favorite films of all time was Blind Beast, the 1969 Japanese film, and I have an original poster of it, actually. I love it, and when I first saw that artwork, I was like, wow, this is. And that's when I started taking notes. Like this is like Andrew said, it's a painting. This is not compared to the other artists where it's sort of like it feels a little bit too, not too digital, but you can just tell the difference. Like this is a true work of art. It's incredible. So that's one of the early ones that came on my radar for myself, was those early. I think, and I believe he also did Red Angel as well at the same time.
Yes.
Both are back, but and they paired perfectly because they're both two of my favorite films. And I was like, wow, these are stunning. And normally I flip the artwork sometimes, but that one I'm like, no, I'm keeping the the newly commissioned one because it's incredible. So yeah, that's when I think first came my radar, and then obviously more labels. I was seeing Tony's artwork on there, and there's, I mean, I have a few here, but that was sort of the first one that came on my radar. But I think I was just going to quickly mention some of the.
Yeah, go ahead.
I love, because obviously he did work for Eureka a lot as well. I'm a big fan of Eureka, but one of my favorites is The Bullet Train, which is the
oh, nice.
Yeah, my favorite Japanese films. It's just one of my favorite films as well from the 70s. But really stands out. And Eureka, it did some amazing stuff for Eureka as well. Especially, I said, because Japanese cinema is my favorite. It's my bread and butter. So all the ones that Tony did. We've also got one of my other favorites is the Samurai Wolf series, which is a fantastic series, almost like a spaghetti western. And he was really good at. Obviously, I'll mention more later, but yeah, this is the Samurai Wolf 1 and 2.
Nice.
I
think one thing he did really well was he did that great kind of what would you call it? Like collective of like people in one shot, like the epic kind of, like, I guess you could almost say like the Star Wars shot, like the multiple characters in one image. He did that so well.
Had that perfect balance, and there's a few artists out there that just, but it's really hard to do that multiple characters, but it just works without being
and you got to tell a story in one image. You know, you got to set up imagination in one image, and I think he really did a great job of that. Scott, you got any with you there?
I do. Funny enough, I actually worked on both Blind Beast and Red Angel, and I actually remember when I got the Red Angel artwork, thinking, for Tony, just very much darker, much more minimalist than certainly the work of his I had seen up to that point. But yeah, love him. But I have the Dollars trilogy right next to me, and for instance, obviously we did a Fistful of Dollars first, and I sent him a link to the first pass, which I usually don't do. But I know on the posters, for instance, he saw the first pass and thought there was too much negative space, so he actually went back and all 3 posters and added a bit. I think everything from here down he added because he just thought it was too empty. Which usually, I tell people, white space can be your friend, but in this case, he was right, and it's a perfect balance. But no, I love that. As far as his other posters, I mean, I'm still convinced I haven't even seen all of them, but certainly love his Star Trek and Star Wars.
I was going to say we're going to pop his website up in a little bit and kind of just scroll through some of that stuff. He's got some great stuff that he just did because he wanted to do it.
My favorite of his might be The Taking of Pelham 123.
Okay,
I'm a fan of the film, but also for how it incorporates the old Massimo Vignelli subway map from the 70s. Very graphic, and I'm a fan.
Yeah. It's hard to really understand unless it's just, you do that. You have that, you're like a painter or an artist in that way. Cause when he described his process, he talked about how he would watch the movie and let it wash over him and really like kind of dig into it. I really wish, and one thing that kind of made me sad at the end of the interview is that we talked about doing how it is. You always want to bring them back. And this was 3 years ago that we talked to him. And I would just wish we'd tried to set up another one of them in interviews and dug into more of his stuff before this. But I mean, what are you going to do? But it's just, I wish we could have dug more into the mind, like where the inspiration comes from. I mean, obviously he loves movies and he like, but where did it pinpoint, and some of these are just like, I don't know how he imagined them. But that's what great artists do. Andrew, what you got up there? You're flipping through stuff.
I was just pulling stuff off the shelf that I was just kind of remembering. Here's another one. Actually, I just found this on my shelf. I thought I had it in a pile next to me. Nope, it was actually behind me. And that was The Threat, the Kenji Fukasaku film. We were just talking about how he loved Japanese movies. So I got this here. Another one that, Scott, your name's all over this one too.
And that one I remember was a challenge, just trying to, that's a case where the title is sort of incorporated within the artwork. So, you can, you might have the artwork aligned perfectly, but then the title isn't. But then if you move the title, you move the artwork with it, etc. And I had to change the, some of the colors around on the spine to, because of the logos and stuff. But yeah, that one had some challenges. But again, that's another case where I showed it to him and, got a thumbs up. And, I always try never to change the artwork unless it absolutely has to be done.
And I remember that I had this as well, Ringo Lam's Burning Paradise, which he also worked on. And this was an early Vinegar Syndrome adjacent title that I got. And I've had this in my collection for a few years, and this is really nice. And what is interesting is, his distinct style is definitely present in there, but then you get something like A Fugitive from the Past, which is very minimalistic. It's literally a black, white, and red image, or gray. Throw a little gray in there as well. And this is an interesting just contrast to kind of the more bombastic imagery that he was using in his film, in his work here. I remember I have this, A Fugitive from the Past, a great movie. What's interesting also, I was just thinking about this movie earlier and how this artwork associates it. This movie is very minimalistic, and so I feel like the cover art's very appropriately themed and styled for the movie. Like, it depicts the movie without telling you anything at all about the movie. The other night here on Chasing Labels, we talked about, I'll say it again right here, just as a contrast in terms of difference in cover art. there's a cover art for the Lamberto Bava movie Macabre that Vinegar Syndrome just put out, and the cover art literally spoils the movie. And I always kind of wondered, like, what is the process, the rationale behind the cover artist in doing that? Like, do they purposely not show anything that particularly pertains to the movie, or are, what's that line, if you will? But it just reminded me of how this doesn't is the opposite of that. Doesn't tell you anything.
Well, I mean, as Tony says in the interview, there are, and Scott can probably talk to this as well. There are mandates sometimes when it comes to cover art and things can either be done or not done, or, so.
Well, and in the case of, if you get a movie that's minimalist, on one hand, there's the urge to make a minimalist cover to complement the minimalist movie, but I could also understand do something in contrast. And quick, tiny little sidebar, when Criterion, Tony did not do this, but when Criterion originally did Last Year at Marienbad, that cover, it's just text embossed on white. That's it. No image, no nothing. I think Rodrigo Corral did that cover. And then when Sam Smith did the Kino cover, he decided to go in the completely opposite direction and just take images from all over and go maximalist with it. Both perfect, both great covers, both perfectly valid ideas, but I suppose the art is in figuring out which one to go with. Not to sound too pretentious.
No, that makes a lot of sense. It kind of shows the difference in contrast in terms of being able to depict a cover art for the same movie, but take completely different styles of it. I mean, not to go too off on tangent here, Stephen, you'll have to stop me, but you've just mentioned Criterion, and I know he did a couple of Criterion covers. Medicine for Melancholy is the one I have. Talk about almost a watercolor-esque cover. Which is rather different from what we see from him for the most part, because usually you get such rich detail in here. It's like a watercolor mirage, if you will, but a beautiful cover nonetheless.
Yeah, I got a Fun City edition here, and I think one of the things as a film person that we got from him was that he very much wanted to get into the underbelly of cinema, like things that were like undiscovered, underappreciated, that Natural Enemies, which I think at the time was a big discovery for a lot of us as a film. And then of course, being able to put a stamp artwork wise on this is great. And so I think being associated with a movie that's such a discovery was probably really great for him as well. And this, good release here.
Another title where I think the title was incorporated within the artwork, so you could have the actors perfectly centered, but then the title is off, or the title's centered, but then the actor's off. And that's one where I think I just went in on my own and added, I think it needed 2 millimeters. So I just went in and cloned it myself, and, didn't see anything, didn't hear anything, just did it because it had to be done. But that one always looked, was always a fan of that one.
Yeah, and another one that always stood out to me was the Vinegar Syndrome thriller.
Oh,
here.
Nice.
Yeah, just pops, and I think his use of color a lot of times was always very interesting, and I think he finds a way to the colors have, I think, associated emotion to them as well, and I think this is this kind of fiery red orange is kind of the perfect emotional color for this movie, I think. So
it suits it. And I remember that set. I think it sold out in like a weekend. It was something crazy. But I think I can't help but say, but Tony's art did help that sell out, because that went, I think it was over a Black Friday. It was gone, or whenever it was, at some special event. So, and they've tried to reissue with other covers, but that's.
And it was also competing with the Kino 4K, and it was a back and forth, and of course, Vinegar Syndrome being the popular brand that they're both popular brands, obviously, but Vinegar Syndrome's built themselves into an empire, and that artwork it kind of just just pops out at you, and I think for sure it helped. Any more you want to share?
Well, just little case study. I mean, we could do an hour just on this, but
Sure.
For the Dollars trilogy, for instance, he did the artwork, and we have separate, artwork for the sleeve, artwork for the O card in the box, but the O card in the box obviously have different templates. So that's a case where kind of have to fill a little in just on the edges. And then because of studio, licensing reasons, the name has to be here and not here. Certain things we had to change. Tony sends everything, and then it's like, well, take that out, do this, do that. And this was also a case where Tony, it's all painted. It's not like layered, but the sun on the spine, that was its own separate shape. So, when we kind of figured out what to do with it, that was, I could, manipulate that thankfully on its own and then cut it in thirds so they all lined up. But, had to paint out the likenesses of the actors for the spine for contractual reasons. But no, the titles, the text, that was his. And then I think the one question I probably asked Tony the most over the years was, what font was that? So I could then match it within the booklet and the rest of the packaging. But he did not do separate disc art for this one. So then it's just a case of, trying to find the best cropping you can and leaving room for the logos and everything else. But, it's the job.
That's the job. One I know you worked on, because I remember us talking about it, was the Chabrol sets.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I forgot about that. I have one on my shelf. I have that one, Lies in the Sea.
And each of them have their own own artworks for each movie, and I like how they're kind of like windows into each movie. I love the little
I think for the other, not that set, for the other one, I think I placed the artwork maybe 5 millimeters too low, and as soon as it was announced, I think Tony must have messaged Arrow. Arrow messaged me,
twisting the knife.
Went in and uploaded a revised version. You'd never be able to tell, but Tony could, and for whatever reason, that's how I did it at the time. But with the box sets, it's just spacing and keeping everything uniform. You don't want one to stick out compared to the other ones, and same with the Dollars trilogy. So it's something we're always trying to be aware of.
It's fascinating how you, Tony, other artists have these eagle eyes that are able to tell like within millimeters if something's off. Like to us, it looks good. You know what I mean?
Most of the time, you can tell
the little errors in there. It must get at you as an artist about all of that.
I mean, little things like that, them attention to detail. It's crazy. But let's go into the website, Tony Stella's website here real quick, and let's kind of just scroll through and look at some of this great stuff.
I was going to say the Dollars trilogy as well. Like I know that I've got the original, but I know it got re-released with the new box set. But I'm so tempted to get that again because I just love the artwork on that new trilogy box. It looks incredible. So it's just
And as I put it on Facebook, the man with no name is back, which means Tony and I are too.
Yeah. I mean, there was so much other stuff that he worked on. But there's a plethora of extra things you'll see on his website that are kind of mind blowing.
And a lot of collectors or fans are aware of this too. Like it's because the website has, like I said, just personal projects and stuff that he loves to do.
And a lot of these you could actually get. I if I'm wrong, you could get prints of some of these.
Yeah, on this site here, you could go and buy some of this stuff. I don't think, obviously not everything, but I think you could reach out to Tony, and if you wanted to get something specific, he might be able to work it out with you.
Well, I know Bill Hunt from the Digital Bits was trying to get, his Master and Commander poster. So I don't know what's going to happen with that ultimately.
It would be cool to own an original Tony Stella, man. It would have always been cool, but now it's like, God.
That Spartacus is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Barry Lyndon.
Yeah. That's an interesting choice for Spartacus. Yeah.
Barry
Lyndon.
Some of my favorites is when we get to the Rocky stuff, because I remember when we were talking to him, he talked about how much he loved Rocky and that his dad used to like get into arguments with him by like saying Rocky sucked. just to start film conversations. His dad would like just say something was bad.
It's interesting. I forgot he did the cover art for the Underground. There's Medicine for Melancholy, because he did do some, like he did the Columbo sets for Kino, which is another TV type of work, and you don't see a lot of attention to detail for television box art these days. So that was really nice that they were able to utilize his iconic, Peter Falk as Columbo.
Yeah.
For those sets.
Yeah, he said in the interview that he did a lot. He was doing a lot of Columbo at the time because people must have been watching it in the pandemic, and like it was just it's selling tons of Columbo.
Straw Dogs.
Straw Dogs. There's the Major Dundee. Yes, that's a great Straw Dogs.
Yeah,
and then I think there's one for Copland.
Yeah, I know.
That's a lot of original artwork for Copland.
This is literally the first time I'm seeing that poster right now.
Yeah. It's cool.
There's the Thriller that you were talking. Oh,
I remember that was the Studio Canal.
I have that actually big Studio Canal one.
Big box too.
Yeah, I have actually that. This was something I got.
Oh, I like that conversation right there is.
But they just look so accurate to their time. It looks like this could be something from the 70s. Like it's
that Bauhaus 70s font, definitely.
Yeah, the font. Yeah, it looks like. If you show me that, I may think that was some sort of foreign poster from the time. Like it just incredible.
I almost feel like that Apocalypse Now was the one they could have used at some point. There's been so much great artwork for Apocalypse Now.
Well, I think one of those posters, I think he said in an interview, was one of his favorite posters of all time. The one of Brando just with the sponge.
Yeah. Was that Sorcerer we just passed? I think it was that one.
Wait,
the one up.
This right here?
Yeah.
No, that's not Sorcerer.
No, I think that's part of the railroad, the underground.
Oh, that makes more sense.
Railroad.
No, I thought that was the bridge in Sorcerer where they're trying to get the truck across.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
See, that's cool right there. I like that.
And that's for McCabe and Mrs. Miller. Robert Altman.
Yeah, he and Midnight Marauder, also a ton of Robert Altman posters.
Yeah.
I think that he did Thieves Like Us for Cinematograph.
Yep. It's one of my favorites too.
And this was a talking subject. He'd done the Quentin Tarantino art that was on Tarantino's book. And he talked about how he had a strained relationship with Tarantino. Something he didn't go completely into, but he talked a little bit about his disdain for Tarantino.
Well, he talked about
as a personality, and anything after Kill Bill he didn't like.
Well, Stephen, he was living in Germany when they did Inglourious Bastards?
Yes. Right.
Yeah, and he was talking about he was around that production of that time.
Yeah, he also said that he did not like Christoph Waltz, and that was the great thing I liked about talking with him is he's just so straight up. You could tell that how he describes his father and how he talked movies with him rubbed off on him, where he will definitely speak his mind about something, but he wants to start a conversation. Like he's okay with that, and I think we should be okay with that. I think you don't want to be a hater. There's like a line there, but we should be having open discussions about film in all different ways. He just had a very fun vibe and a very, I think, healthy way of interacting with movies.
Oh, that's an alternate poster for Goodfellas, using the title of the book as the title. Nice. And Casino. That's great. At Eternity's Gate with Willem Dafoe. Lust for Life is a movie I feel people don't really talk about with Kirk Douglas as Van Gogh.
There's Sorcerer, but that both Sorcerers. But the Wages of Fear. But if you scroll up, I think that ended up on the Waxwork vinyl. I've got which is incredible artwork as well.
I was gonna say Tony was hired to do not only these film releases but like books, and he's done, I think, like you said, vinyls.
Yeah.
Done posters for re-releases, many things. So
even current releases, he did release for like The Secret Agent, which I think was at the top there. Which is a movie that came out last year, a Brazilian movie that came out last year.
Wow, Fitzcarraldo.
The last Indiana Jones film.
Oh yes, he did do that.
Yeah.
They should have used. No, they didn't use it. gonna say they should have used it for the Blu-ray release, but they did not.
It's interesting. I see some like stuff on here, like because I saw like a ghost dog, for example, that he did, but it was like looked like Criterion. Is that just like, was that his just sort of idea, or was that a rejected art? Well, I don't know, because I'm just curious why he's got Criterion logos on some of them. Was it more just like not fan art, but like sort of like a concept or something? Because I noticed that he's got a few. If you look, there's a few Criterion covers that they never end up being the cover. Maybe he proposed or something, and it's interesting because there's a few on there that never became covers, but they're beautiful. Like
no, maybe Scott, you could probably say that. Is there certain like exercises of making like your own cover art to things and whatnot? Because I feel like people do that all the time. Sometimes they do it in a joking manner, like they'll make fake cover arts for like Kindergarten Cop
like
as a Criterion.
Because I'm like that never ended up being the cover, but was that a concept that he possibly did? It's really amazing.
But the Kindergarten Cop one you mentioned actually was generated by Criterion. It was an April Fool's joke back when they did those.
And Chud.
Yeah, he didn't touch on that when we talked to him, but I mean, like, I think it could go either way. I mean, I don't know if there's roles to, are there any roles to, like, if you have a rejected artwork, Scott, that you can't release them rejected artworks, or?
I mean, I've had a few where once the product is out, whether it's a movie or a Blu-ray, once it's out, I'll put it on my website. I had one client tell me, like, I can't display any of them ever. It's sort of a case-by-case basis, but I try to play it safe with
a copyright issue or something like that.
I mean, maybe, or an actor likeness, issue too.
Yeah, but I think it could go either way. I think it seemed like Tony would do this stuff just to do it.
Yeah, I feel like his passion for movies definitely overrode any sense of doing it for work. Like
and I know he said sometimes that he would see other people do artwork for things that he wish he would have been asked to do. So maybe he was just like being like, "Look, this is what I would have done," and kind of just went straight to the point. Was like, "Look, Criterion, this is what I would have done." So maybe look at that.
Yeah,
I like that.
But
yeah, that's interesting.
I like that Butch Cassidy one. That's nice.
And sometimes he might put it out there, like I said, just to show, like, if anyone wants to take on that artwork officially, then put on a release. Then like, because these are amazing. Wow, Stagecoach. Yeah, fantastic with
shot Liberty Balance.
Oh wow!
But some of them,
nice.
But the brushwork is very detailed and intricate. Others, it's a little, I guess, messier and all over the place.
Yeah, he made a joke in our interview that he's like, I finally got like good brushes, and it's like it's so much easier now. He's like I was working so hard before.
But when to go detailed and intricate or messy, I don't know if that was something where he just would wake up one morning and decide, I want to do one now that's messy, or if he let the film dictate that.
I was just gonna say, like, you just saw Seconds over there, and that movie is like just a mind meld of a movie, and that cover is just indicative of like the messiness of the movie.
Yeah,
and sort of a nod to the film. I've noticed a couple of these, which are specific references, I think, to the film's title sequences.
Yeah,
the one from Seconds kind of looks like that.
Yes,
right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I said earlier, it's like, who knows where the inspiration comes from, but it seems like he very much taps into the feeling he gets maybe while watching the movie, or the themes, kind of really play a point into how he's going to do it. And I know he also talked about how he would use unconventional mixes of materials to paint sometimes. Like he would mix two different types of things that would typically be taboo when it comes to artwork. So some like oil pastels with watercolors, and like he would do things like that wouldn't be typical. So you would get interesting textures that way. So yeah, I mean, this scrolls on for a pretty good while. He did a lot of work.
And there are multiple
Laurie there.
There are multiple pages on his website that have other artwork as well. Like, he has a whole archive of things. That's a heck of a Dawn of the Dead.
And props to Midnight Marauder too.
Yes.
You know, who probably collaborated with him the most and is also one of my design heroes. And his post on Instagram was how I found out.
Yeah.
And then when I woke up this morning, you know, I had a dozen people on Instagram asking what happened. And it's like, I don't know. I'm sorry. I know what you know. You know.
At this point, everything's still kind of hush hush. Of course, Tony, like I said, was already a pretty private person as it is. So maybe we'll hear more, but at this point, it's still unknown what happened. But of course, our thoughts go out to family,
of course,
and friends that knew him, and because I know when we talked to him, he had a 4-year-old daughter, so I know he at least has a daughter. So thoughts go out to his family.
Yeah, and of course, when it comes to these things, you want to make sure to, give the family time and privacy to deal with all that. I believe you mentioned, Scott, in the Midnight Marauders post that they mentioned that like they're still sorting out certain things with when it comes to business things and his work and all that kind of stuff, which of course all takes time and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, it's just an incredible loss, I think, just for the world of movie lovers in general, whether you appreciate his artwork or not, or knew of his artwork or not, or anything like that. But he seemed to touch a lot of people in small or large ways, whether it be through his work or just through various means. I know I've been following him for years. I think pretty much since the beginning of Chasing Labels and whatnot, we've been following him and his work continues to appear right up to this day. I mean, even as early as this month, his work is still appearing. I know recently I just ordered Hard Boiled, which he did a cover art for the Arrow release of Hard Boiled, which just came out last month. This month, The Killer came out. His cover art's all over that as well. So yeah, his work still lives on, which is nice for an artist. I mean, I feel like that's the best you can ask for, is you living on and remember very fondly, which you will certainly be here on Chasing Labels and amongst many people. For sure.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you guys coming on and talking with us, celebrating Tony Stella's life. Any last words, guys? John?
Yeah, no, an incredible loss. But like I said, Andrew, I think his legacy will live on now, because now we actually have these physical media products, which we all have them in our hands now, which is great. I was going to say there's another one of my favorites I forgot to mention, the Certain Killer double feature, because you get two artworks you actually get on either side. I think Scott may know a little bit about this one. It's one of my...
which one is that one again?
Oh, sorry, the Certain Killer and Killer's Key double feature was a...
Okay. No, that one actually did not work on.
Oh, the one.
Yeah.
I think it's the one we picked out that you didn't work on, Scott.
No.
You get
I haven't worked on... Yeah. No, very cool. But no, again, I don't know how many titles with Arrow that he has in the hopper, but there's definitely one, and the files are on my desktop right now. And maybe in the booklet, hopefully we can get, even if it's just one line or two lines, a little something in his honor. But yeah, just waiting to get all that approved. I don't know when it'll be out, but it'll be exciting, but with that extra little hint of I'm still going to tag him like I always do, though.
Exactly.
Gotta keep that up.
Yep.
Yeah, and let's I don't know how it'll work, like you said, with his business and everything, but hey, maybe this is a good opportunity. Go to the Tony Stella website, go purchase some Tony Stella artwork if you can. That's something I'm thinking about doing. It'd be nice to of course we're giving to the family as well, so that would be a nice thing to do as well. So I think this won't be even with him gone. I don't think this is the last time we'll be talking about Tony Stella. I think we'll be still talking about him a lot going forward, and his inspiration and and what he's done, not only for art, but I think as a film person. And I've said it a bunch of times about our interview with him. Please go listen to it, because he digs into his past, and he has a very interesting upbringing and a very interesting viewpoint on cinema and things. And very, very much has a romantic relationship with film, I think.
I was just not to like harken back too much on that, self-promotion. I guess the best promotion, but I was very taken aback by how independent he was as an individual in pursuing his love of movies. I remember him talking about from a very young age him traveling himself to go watch movies. And I always thought that was kind of a story in and of itself, like a movie story in and of itself. Because I know when I was the age that he mentioned, the very young age, I would never have had the courage to, hop on a train to go to another place to watch a movie. They're very passionate, very passionate.
Yeah. But thanks, guys. Thanks again. Thanks to everybody that's listening and celebrating Tony today, and keep celebrating him. That'll be it for tonight, guys. Thanks. Have a good night.
Thank you.